Welcome everybody to the io.Connect Desktop 10.0 release webinar. We're going to get started pretty close to on time here. Got a lot of content to cover and really excited to share the specific details of what is a quite significant and major release for the interop engineering teams. So to get us started, let's do some quick intros. We'll set the scene for the goal of this session and cover some housekeeping. So on the call today from the interop side, we have myself, Bob Myers. I'm the SVP of Product Management, Kirill Popov, who's our SVP of Product Engineering, and who will be largely leading this session and covering a lot of the technical details of our 10.0 release, and Tony Petrov, who's our Developer Community Lead, who will be working to field any questions that we receive during today's session using the Q&A functionality, and is also here to engage with you following the webinar in our dev community. So we're really excited to be with you today. Let's just talk a little bit about the goal of this session. Really, we'd like for you to leave our webinar today with the right information regarding some of the new features, breaking changes, and migration paths related to the 10.0 io.Connect desktop release. Think of today's session as more of a technical session to supplement what I think are extensive change logs and technical documentation that can be found on the interop website. So we are going to go pretty deep and actually do some live demos of some of the functionality, a little bit of a light training, as it were. Our agenda today will focus on some of the largest changes and sort of a technical view of those that you need to be aware of as you start to plan in December or January Q1 for upgrading to the 10.0 io.Connect desktop version. And just as a quick call out, while this is going to be an extensive session, we are standing by to help everybody from Tony at the developer community to your client success managers to the product management and product engineering team. So we're here to make sure that you are supported throughout your migration to the 10.0 release. Quick note on our release process or philosophy. We use semantic versioning, so we indicate changes with major and minor releases through the numbering and labeling of our releases. This is actually the first major release that we've had on the io.Connect platform since late 2023. The release contains hundreds of engineering tickets and has several foundational engineering changes, which we'll cover today, and also introduces a variety of new capabilities, which you can take advantage of. Some very, very quick in terms of new features that include support for macOS. We've got new deployment options through our seed project model, which Carol will cover in detail later on this call. We've got new testing options using WebDriver services for end-to-end and integration testing in your own environment. We've got a host of new security capabilities and considerations, which you should be aware of. And we've also got general improvements to our API design, both for flexibility and performance. So as I mentioned, from a housekeeping perspective, we're going to run through the presentation here. We'll hand it over to Carol here in a moment. From a Q&A perspective, feel free to drop questions as we go through the session. Tony's going to be emceeing those, and we have a dedicated Q&A section at the end of the call. And last but not least, this is a recorded session, so if you need to come back to this, we'll make this available in the developer community and various other locations that you can access following the webinar. So like I said, thank you for being here. We've got a great turnout. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Carol to run us through the details.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Kirill Popov, and I'm Senior Vice President, Product Engineering at Interop.io. Today, I will walk you through the major features of version 10, and then I'll do a quick live demo. But before that, I want to start with a quick overview of the release. This release is one of the biggest updates we've done in a long time, and the core focus of it was enabling full macOS support, which required major rework in several sections of the product, mostly the visual integration part, but also things like startup sequence, build, and packaging. To support this, we needed to figure out a new deployment mechanism, and this is the so-called seed project. It introduces a fully self-service model that gives you everything you need to build and package your own distributions of io.Connect desktop. And along with the seed, we also introduced built-in auto-update capabilities. This allows distributions created with the seed to receive updates automatically in a predictable and controlled way. We also delivered some interesting new features in the Launchpad application, aligned with the overall UI direction of the product, and many other smaller features. This release also introduces several breaking changes, which I encourage you to review in our documentation. And we also updated the underlying technology stack. As you know, our product is based on Electron, and Electron is now updated to version 39. One interesting change related to that is that we no longer bundle a separate Node.js runtime as part of the product. Instead, we now use the Node.js version that ships with Electron. And we use this Node.js version to start any Node.js based application that is defined in the platform. And again, you can find more information about this change in the changelog. And now that we have covered the high-level overview, let's start with the biggest change in V10, which is the macOS support. io.Connect Desktop now runs natively on macOS, and from a development perspective, it behaves just like the Windows version. This means that we expose the same APIs, the same configuration model, and we support the same concepts. So teams don't have to build and maintain anything OS specific in their applications. Practically speaking, this means that any workspace, layout, app definition, or configuration you already have for Windows will run on macOS. And also by using the seed project, you can package IOCD into a native macOS distributions. And that includes signing and notarizing the binaries and also auto-update capabilities. What you see on the screen currently is what the product looks like on macOS. It's the same user experience, same features, same workflows, just running on Apple hardware. With that said, there are a few OS level differences worth being aware of. Most of these come from how macOS handles windowing and system level APIs. So they're more of expected differences rather than functional gaps. The first one is that only web groups are supported on macOS. The legacy classic groups implementation that we have cannot operate on macOS because it relies on native Windows APIs. The second is about native applications, and native applications cannot participate in visual integrations on macOS. This means that you cannot add, for example, a native Java application into a workspace or stick it to a web application and form a web group. However, native apps can still exchange the data via interop with web apps running in io.Connect Desktop. There are also some small visual differences. For example, non-rectangular window groups do not render transparent area on macOS. So those regions are filled with a background color which is not transparent. Also, some of the adapters that we have, like the Office adapters or Bloomberg or Fidesa, aren't available on macOS. This is simply because these applications either do not expose the same APIs or don't have a macOS version at all. And there are also a few smaller OS-specific behaviors as well. Uh, for example, the Windows taskbar-specific APIs do not exist on macOS, so anything tied to taskbar titles or programmatic taskbar operations isn't applicable here. The full list again is available in our documentation. We also have a few features that are still in progress, like creating workspace instances that start hidden by default or enabling search behavior in PDF files. The important message here is that everything required for your core workflows is supported on macOS today. These differences are either OS driven or incremental improvements that we plan to deliver in future 10x releases. The next topic I want to cover is around auto updates. And io.Connect Desktop now includes built-in support for automatic updates powered by the Electron update system. This works across both Windows and macOS. It allows you to deliver new versions of your desktop distributions without requiring users to manually download installers. On the left, you can see what the user experience looked like when io.Connect Desktop starts. It detects a new version, and then the users are shown a notification with the option to restart immediately or postpone the update. If they choose to defer it, the update will automatically be applied the next time they restart the application. One important detail here is that auto update only works when io.Connect Desktop is packaged in a specific format, and this format is installer for Windows and a DMG for macOS. And auto update does not work if IOCD is packaged as a zip bundle. Another important thing is that auto update requires a customer hosted update service. And this service exposes update metadata and artifacts, things like version information and the installers themselves. And when io.Connect Desktops is started, it is configured to ask this service if a new version exists, and if so, it will download it and show this UI to the user. And hosting this service gives you full control over how updates are distributed inside your environment. Now let's have a look at the Launchpad experience. The io.Connect embedded launcher is an application which acts as a central hub for managing interop-enabled applications, layouts, workspaces, search, notifications, and also various io.Connect desktop settings. This version of the launcher was introduced in version 9 of io.Connect Desktop. And with version 10, we have extended the Launchpad with a new capability. And it can now be docked to the top of the screen for quick access. Users can dock it either by dragging it to the top of the screen or by using the menu command in the Launchpad. And when the Launchpad is docked, it reveals an extended area between the search bar and the system icons. And this area can display list of favorite items, recent items, or can also host custom categories that you define. And now moving forward to probably one of the biggest changes in V10, the new deployment model, or the seed project as we call it. A bit of background here. Historically, io.Connect Desktop was delivered as a custom installer that we built separately for each client. And after releasing our public version, our team had to prepare and test individual installers that included the client-specific configurations and customizations. As the platform grew and more clients came on board, this model became difficult to scale, and turnaround times often stretched to days or even weeks, depending on the complexity. It also meant that US clients depended on our internal processes for things like branding changes, configuration updates, or rolling out new versions. The new seat model tries to solve these problems, but by making the entire process self-service, automated, and fully in your control. The seed project is a CLI-generated starting point that includes everything needed to build your own io.Connect desktop distribution. When you run the CLI, it creates a clean, ready-to-use repository containing only the components you need, along with default configurations, templates, and some tooling to support this. And from there, you own the entire project, the configuration, branding, tests, build pipeline, signing of the binaries, releases, and pretty much everything. You decide when to update the seed with a new IOCD version and when to publish a new version of your distribution. The result is a much more flexible, predictable, and scalable model. And let's cover the benefits of this model. First, control. Everything lives in your own repository. You can version it, test it, automate it, and integrate it into your own processes. You also have control over when to update IOCD and to what version. The second benefit is speed. You no longer need to wait on us to package in stores. With the seed project, you can generate and update your distributions instantly. The third benefit is testing. The model brings automated testing into the workflow. So you can add automated tests that validate your configurations and tabs and workflows before packaging. The fourth benefit is that this model is cross-platform, which means that the same repository builds both the Windows and the macOS installers with identical configurations. And finally, the seed project supports auto updates out of the box, giving you a clean way to distribute updates into your own infrastructure. Let's now see how the seed project works. This slide tries to illustrate the full life cycle of working with the seed project, from the very first setup on day one all the way to automated updates in production. So the first row represents everything you do locally as a developer, and you begin by generating the seed, and the CLI creates a fresh project that becomes your Git repository. This is where you commit your changes, your configuration updates. This is where you version your platform and you collaborate with your team. Once the project is created, the next step is to customize your configuration and branding. This is where you apply your environment defaults and bring over any existing configuration from your current IOCD deployment. And after that, you add the applications you want to bundle with your distribution. For example, any internal application or a custom version of some of the built-in apps like workspaces. And note that we're not talking about configurations here, but for full applications that instead of being loaded from a remote location, are bundled with the product. This step is optional and it's totally fine to not bundle anything with the product. Then the next step is highly recommended to do, and it's about adding automated tests. And these tests will validate your distribution and the way you have configured it. I'll talk more about testing later in the presentation. And finally, you have the ability to run the platform locally, and this is how you can develop new features, experiment with configuration changes, and or just confirm everything behaves as expected before pushing anything further to the pipeline. The second row, the blue one, represents the automated part of the process. Once your project is in Git, your CI/CD pipeline takes over. It runs whenever you push changes or based on whatever trigger you choose. And this pipeline can build both Windows and macOS versions of your distribution and then sign them using your organization certificates. And optionally, when the build and the signing is complete, you can publish the update to your update service. So your distribution of io.Connect desktop can do auto updates. And we think that together, these two rows gives you a clean separation between local development and production automation while still keeping the entire workflow under your control. And now I want to cover a few more important topics that are related to the seed project and that are related to particular steps from this diagram. And the first one is licensing. To use the seed project and start io.Connect Desktop V10, you need a valid license key, which you will receive from your Client Success Manager. When you generate the seed project, you'll be asked to provide your organization's license key, and this key will be added to a file that is part of the seed project. This file is git ignored, and which means it won't be pushed to the remote Git repository. We recommend you keep it that way. And later, when you build your distribution using the seed project, your license key is going to be automatically bundled into the installer. And this means that end users don't have to set up or enter a license key. Everything works out of the box for them. The second thing I wanted to mention is testing, and this is one of the biggest advantages of the seed project. Uh, uh, and disadvantage is that testing is now built directly into the workflow of the seed project, both locally and in your CI server. The goal here is simple. You have a set of tests that verify that the major workflows of your implementation work as expected. And inside of your seed project, you have a dedicated tests folder where you place your automated tests. And when you run those tests via the test command of the CLI, the CLI will start the platform using the exact configurations defined in your seed project with all the modifications and custom applications. And from there, in your tests, you can use the WebDriver IO APIs to inspect visual elements in any application running in io.Connect Desktop. And this allows you to check that tabs load correctly, that UI components render as expected, and also verify that user flows are executed correctly across applications. The WebDriver IO APIs are extended with helper methods that bridge to interop IO APIs. This means that interop IO APIs are available in the test context, and this makes it easy to do things like enumerating applications or starting new applications or restoring layout and so on. So with the combination of the WebDriver IO APIs and the interop IO APIs, you can do a full testing of any workflow that is important for your distribution. The next topic related to the seed project that I want to cover are the build outputs. When you build your project from the seed, it can produce platform native builds for both Windows and Mac OS. And there are multiple formats available, and each one is useful in different situations depending on how you plan to deploy your application. And by default, we have enabled the following formats in the seed. On Windows, you have Squirrel Windows installer. This is based on the popular Squirrel framework. It supports auto updates, but it's a bit limited in customizations. For example, you cannot change the install location. The second option is a portable zip distribution. Obviously, no installation required here. This might be more suitable for custom deployment tools. The disadvantage here is that it does not support auto updates. And on macOS, the default build outputs are a DMG installer. This is like the standard macOS installation experience. It does support auto updates, and it's the recommended way of building things for macOS. And The other option is a zip archive that contains the app bundle. Uh, Again, no installation required, suitable for custom deployment tools, but no auto update here. Uh, Behind the scenes, everything is packaged with Electron Forge. So this is a popular tool for packaging Electron applications. So if your team needs to explore more advanced configurations, you can check what's available in Electron's Forge documentation. Then, then we then the last thing is about code signing, and code signing is an essential part of distributing any desktop application. It ensures that the application is trusted by the operating system and that the users can verify it hasn't been tampered with. And both Windows and macOS require signed applications, so this is a mandatory step for any production distribution. The Seed project provides full support for code signing on both platforms, and it even allows you to plug your own custom signing script if your organization has a more advanced setup. And on Windows, there are two main ways to sign your builds. The first one and the most common method is to use a PFX certificate with a password. And this file contains both the certificate and the private key needed, and it can be stored securely in the CI environment and referenced during the build process. The second method uses a certificate that is already imported into the Windows certificate store. This is the approach that you would use with services like DigiCert Keywalker. With Keywalker, for example, you sync the certificate into the local Windows certificate store and then sign the binaries by just using the certificate's hash. So those are the two major ways to sign binaries on Windows that are supported by the seed. And for Windows and for macOS, it's a bit different and more tightly controlled. Uh, for applications distributed outside of the App Store, other than signing, there is an additional step called notarization. And for signing, the typical option is to use a certificate stored into the macOS keychain. This is what you do if you want to use an Apple developer certificate. You basically get the certificate from the Apple developers portal, import it into your keychain, and it becomes available for tools like CodeSign. The other option is to have a certificate exported with its private key into a password protected file and import this during the CI build. And this option isn't as secure as keeping the key in the keychain, but it's still a common and supported workflow. The second step of the process is called notarization on macOS, and this is notarization is required for distributing applications outside of the App Store. It's basically the Apple's way of verifying that the app is from a known developer and hasn't been modified. And if your application is not notarized, users will see warnings, and in some environments, it may not be possible to run the application as well as at all. And it's important to say that the seed project handles the notarization step automatically as long as you provide the necessary details in the seed configuration. And finally, the seed project supports custom code signing scripts. This is for organizations that have more advanced internal signing systems. in this case, the seed allows you to plug in a custom script that is executed for every file that needs to be signed during packaging. Uh, this custom signing script, they give you a complete flexibility to integrate with any system that you use. And this was the last thing about the seed that I wanted to cover. And now I want to do a quick live demo that will demonstrate the seed project, how it works in practice. It will also demonstrate how it looks to run IOCD on Mac and what's the Mac experience. I'll just need a few seconds to switch. Okay, stop sharing for a second. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now, and I have prepared a folder for this webinar demo, and I will start a terminal window here. I'll just increase the font a bit so it's more visible. And what I'll do, I'll create a new seed project in here. And this create procedure will ask me a few questions that will be useful for setting up the repository. The first question is about the product name, and I'll call it the webinar demo project. And then it will ask me if I want to create a new folder. I will say yes. I'll use the proposed name for the folder. Then it will ask me which components I want to include into this seed. And I'll leave the io.Connect desktop component because it's required. And I will also add the developer tools and some demo applications. Then it will ask me if I want to customize the built-in applications, and I will skip that part. Then it will ask for a license key, and I have prepared a license key here. I'll just copy paste it. Okay, and then it asks if it's okay to create the project. And I say yes, and it creates it, and it prints some useful next steps. And the first one is to enter the folder and do npm install. And this will obviously install all the npm dependencies that are needed for the seed project. If we open the folder here, we'll see that this has a pretty standard structure with the package.json, readme, and some other folders that we will discuss in a minute. And then after the npm install is ready, it says to run npm run setup, and this command will download all the components that I have selected during the creation phase. It will download the io.Connect desktop component and the demos component and the devtools components. And at that point, I can just run npm run dev, and this should start io.Connect desktop in my environment. And you can see that I'll just minimize those things. You can see that it starts the default launcher application that we discussed earlier. I have some demo applications available here. This is because I added the demos component. And if I launch them, you will see that the experience is pretty similar as on Windows. We have the same type of windows. They can stick together and form groups. They can uh, tap together. Uh, they can obviously uh, go to the same channel and exchange data. We also have workspaces available, so I can load this workspace here and again exchange some data between the applications in the workspace. The other thing that I wanted to show here in the default behavior is this feature that I described earlier about docking the toolbar to the top of the screen. This is a new feature introduced with version 10. It once the toolbar is docked, you can still search for applications or layouts from the search box. You have these extra areas here that are for favorite applications or for the most recent ones that you have launched. And as you can see, the experience is pretty similar as on Windows. There are no big no big differences in here. So at this point, I'll just stop this. And I will open this seed folder in Visual Studio Code just to talk a bit more about the structure and some other things. I'll zoom a bit here so it's more visible. So in the seed demo project, there are three interesting folders. The first one is components. So this is where the components that you have specified are downloaded. And we can see that we have the demos, the dev tools, but also the IOCD component. And if we expand the IOCD component, we will see that it has the familiar structure where we have configs and resources and assets. And in configs, we have the system JSON file and everything else. If we want to modify any of those things, we don't do it here in the components folder because the next time we decide to update IOCD, this component will be replaced with the newer version. Instead, we apply those changes in the modification folder. And we have a modifications folder, which allows overriding files in any of the components. And in this case, this is overriding the configuration for the IOCD component. And I can, for example, grab an application that I have prepared somewhere here, and I can drop it to the app configs that are in there in the modifications folder. So the next time I start io.Connect desktop, this modification will be picked up in this application, which just opens Google and it's configured to be auto started. Will show and will be available for users to start. I'll stop IOCD again. Other than adding new applications, you can do other modifications. One interesting thing is that the version of the of the new product is defined in the package JSON. So currently it's by default it stays 1. I can change it from here. So launching IOCD again, we launch with version 3 here in the splash screen, but also in the tray icon over here, I can see that the version is 3. Uh, Another interesting change that you can do is replace some of the visual artifacts. I have another folder prepared here which contains a set of logos, and if I drop this over there, I'm basically saying, okay, when I run IOCD, replace those two icon files in the components folder, and these new logo files will be applied, and my application will start with those logos. So if I run npm run dev now, it should start the application with this green icon. And with all this, I'm trying to demonstrate that the way to apply changes is through the modifications folder, and any change you do needs to stay here and not go into the components folder. And the last thing I wanted to mention here is the configuration folder, where you can find the CLI configuration. This is where you can describe to which components you need. You can specify exact versions or do something like latest. You also specify all the code signing configurations in here. And there is another configuration file which is called Forge, and it defines the build output formats of the seed. And as I demonstrated earlier, there are basically 3 formats that are pre-configured: Maker, DMG, and Zip for macOS. These two will kick on macOS, and these two will kick on Windows. And what I demonstrated is, if you remember the slide with the orange and the blue row, this is basically the orange row, how you set up a seed, how you add some modifications, I haven't really run tests, but there is a tests folder in here with some sample tests that you can run, and then how you run all this locally and can see the modifications in place. The second step, the orange row, is about building the whole thing and producing some build outputs, but this is not something that I'll do as part of this demo. And with that, I'll share back the presentation. Just 1 second. Okay. And with that, my presentation is complete, and I'll hand over to Tony, who is our developer community leader, for the Q&A section. Tony, over to you.
Thanks, Kirill. Yeah, that was very helpful, especially the demo. Thank you for that. It is really better to see it in action and not only read the documentation. So there have been several questions in the Q&As, and please post anything that you have in mind. We have some time. Several of the questions were answered. There was one about can we configure the frequency of update checks and build some robust security checks around the update server, not just limited to old and old Z?
Uh, yeah, the frequency of the checks can be configured. We currently don't have any any way to apply authentication to these calls. This is something that we can consider, by example, by uh, adding the option to add some custom headers to the request. Uh, but we need to think where this should come from, because currently the update checks happen pretty early, at the startup flow of IOCD.
Okay.
So yeah,
Um,
the answer is that frequency is configured. Currently, no way to set authentication on this, but it's a good feedback, and we can consider.
so there was a user who followed the steps in Windows uh, for the seed project, I guess, and he had a problem that the Launchpad app didn't start. So what would you suggest for to debug it? To debug that, he saw the splash screen.
Uh, I'm not sure if we had a similar support ticket that we are investigating it at the moment. I'm not sure if this is the same case or something else, but in this case, please raise support ticket, send us the logs, and we'll have a look. We can have a live session if that's useful. To
Yes, and the logs are the first place to look
Yeah,
into.
the COI generates a log file with each operation, so it's really useful if you can attach those logs to the support tickets.
Okay, and how can the seed project handle rec as VR32 add-in registration? For example, Citrix, Outlook, add-in.
All those add-ins will be available as components. Uh, Currently, we haven't provided all of them. We're working on providing them. I think Bloomberg and PowerPoint are the one that are available today. But when you download the component, when you include it in your seed, uh, it it will add some kind of an application that will run on startup and does this and basically triggers this registration. So when you then run your package deployment, it will run this up and it will do the registration.
Okay.
And this is pretty similar to how it works today with zip bundles.
For the auto updates, does the platform mode uh, matter, or it doesn't care about it and it will run on Mac, on Windows default and advanced mode?
Yeah, we haven't really covered the differences between default and advanced mode here in this presentation. This may be a topic for another webinar, but yeah, the auto update does not care about the mode. The only limitation there is the packaging of the product. So as I mentioned, it needs to be packaged in a specific format. As long as this is true, it should work.
And add-on products like IO Insights, IO Manager, they should work the same in macOS as on Windows. Is that correct? Or with macOS?
Yes, IO Bridge definitely, IO Insights as well. For IO Insights, there might be some metrics which are Windows specifics that we might need to revisit, but that's a really small number. But yeah, in general, there is no reason for them not to work.
So there were two questions that have been answered. Can you force the update, remove the ability for the user to say no? Where Bob answered, you can choose to notify the user or directly install the update on restart of the platform. If the user is notified, they have the option to postpone the updates or apply them immediately by restarting the platform. And the other one was, can you pin workspaces to the Launchpad, or is it just tabs? And the answer is, the model for the extended area is to define categories in the extensibility zone of the Launchpad, which contains arrays of items. These items can currently be of two types, application or workspace. So yes. Okay. So I don't see other questions coming, so which is cool. I'm happy that we had time to cover everything. And okay, there's one more question. For the Mac version, if the user starts with the layout that has windows across two or more monitors, and then the user removes a monitor, what will happen in the layout to the application window that appeared on the monitor that was removed?
To be honest, I'm not really sure what will happen in this situation. We can get back for that question.
That's something that will need to be tested. Are you able to walk through an example of the test framework? I'm afraid we don't have time for that now. There are just a few minutes left. But maybe that's something for a next session.
Yeah, definitely um, something that we can do either on a new session or as an article in the community website.
Yeah, while we may not be able to go through that in detail, Cheryl, can you just speak to whether or not we ship just sample tests or a predefined set of tests, or is it the model to build your own for each client? That might be helpful for folks to think about.
Yeah, we currently do not ship any tests with the seed. The the idea is that with the testing framework provided, you can try to cover the workflows that are important for you. For example, if you have a custom workspace application and you have certain extra UI elements in it, and these UI elements, for example, trigger some other application and they should pass some context, you can write a test that covers this, and this will just give you some certainty that the major workflows that your users use are not going to break between releases or between modifications of the site.
That makes sense. And I like your idea, Tony. I think that probably does merit a separate session on leveraging the WebDriver uh, and test framework capabilities of Tenno. So thanks for the question. The user that submitted that, we'll make sure we set something up separate on that specific topic.
There are several topics that are also new, like the platform modes that Kirill mentioned, the CI/CD, the auto update server. So yeah, we can post something on the community, and then people can jump in and suggest other topics or vote for what they want to see in the next. Maybe it doesn't have to be a webinar. Maybe it can be something like open office hours, or more interactive. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can always post them in our community, in the developer community at community.interop.io, and we'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. The recording will be available probably tomorrow, and there will be a survey about the event, so it will be really helpful if you provide your feedback. One last question, if we have time. In the Mac version, does each separate type of application window get its own icon in the Mac taskbar, or is there only one icon for the Interop.io Launchpad?
Uh, there's only one icon. This is how macOS works. You have one icon in the dock bar, which is on the bottom of the screen, and then if you can see the list of windows opened by this application by right-clicking on the icon, and then it shows the list, but there are no icons in there as well. So on Mac, it's a bit different because just the application icon matters and everything is grouped under it.
Then thanks everyone for attending. I hope that was helpful to you, and to get your feedback and ideas for next events or collaboration. Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks, Carol.
Kirill.
Thanks, Carol.